This is Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're in Irvine, California today. We are at the National Faith Leaders Conference, and joining us is Faith Bautista. She is the president and CEO of the National Asian American Coalition. What made you decide to come to this conference?
Core CDC is
Which, by the way, is Christ Our Redeemer Community Development Corporation.
Correct.
Continue.
So, Core CDC is one of the member of National Diversity Coalition. So, Pastor Mark Whitlock is our chairman, and I'm the president of the NDC as well.
Talk to me about your goals, this church's goals, the Development Corporation's goals for development, for home ownership. What's your mission?
In a nutshell, I want the field to be even. For the minority to be given an opportunity from jobs, and in the jobs, I want them to be part of the board of directors, of the executive position, and all the way to the workforce.
And I want to talk about jobs and the executive positions because, look, it's undeniable that individuals of color, women, individuals of certain faiths have had challenges when they have sought to obtain jobs and or entry into the executive suite. Is it getting better?
Not quite.
Better?
Not quite.
Even better than 50 years ago, let's say?
I would say the 50th anniversary of the Asian Immigration Act. Yes. So
which, it's fascinating that you should say that because as we are taping here, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary, like you said, of Lyndon Johnson standing in front of the Statue of Liberty and signing the Immigration Reform Act, which I learned was incredibly discriminatory, including and especially against Asians and folks of Asian descent. And so, reflect.
This is why we work with Core CDC, as you asked. Without the African American, there will be no Asian. There will be no Latino. So really, we are very grateful with the blacks.
Explain that. Explain the alliances. Because let's face it, 50 years ago, let's say, certain communities of color, ethnic communities, they may have been afraid to partner because, if we partner, then we may not get ahead, and we need to get ahead first, you know. But now it does seem as if what is the cliche? Rising boats.
We're all now brothers and sisters, hermanas, hermanos.
Well said.
Really. So you know, really, Martin Luther King did a big favor to all the minority groups, and I think I applaud the African American to take the first step in the freedom. And as you know, Asian is a little bit more shy or a little bit more not that aggressive. It's just the nature of how we're raised. So. Really combining all these minorities, California, majority, minority.
Right, at this point, I mean, as you know, within the last year, those of Latino descent became the plurality in the state of California. And at the same time, Asian Americans' population trends are quite impressive in terms of growth. On home ownership, we know that this country has had a very ugly history in terms of redlining, in terms of racial covenants, specifically saying that you cannot sell to an Asian, to a Hebrew, to an African, whatever it may be. Those days are behind us.
Correct.
But I think it's fair to say, or is it, that in terms of loans, it can be challenging to obtain one?
As an advocate for the consumers and working with most financial institutions, meeting with Janet Yellen and OCC chair people there, it's really the consumers to me. There's access of contracts. There's access of mortgage to anybody who wants to buy a home. It's a matter of finding that access, and it's the education. The banks have tremendous amount of resources, from the down payment assistance that the government is giving, from the WISH program, that's 15,000 free money. A lot of banks, like Citibank, they have a Anthem program that's only really you can buy a house for $500. So it's education for our consumers.
At the same time, though, we are coming off a crisis, and the crisis included the unfortunate behavior of some lenders that engage in predatory lending practices that we know often targeted communities of color. Are those days behind us?
Oh, yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Explain.
I favor the regulated banks because they're highly regulated. They're very, very careful in giving loans. They want to make sure that there's ability to repay for the people who wants to buy a house. But for other mortgages out there, there's still bad people's always come back. You know, no matter what we do, no matter how we eliminate bad things, it still comes out. So I'm still worried about those brokers that are not really regulated and just charging more points. And unfortunately, I'm seeing that now.
You are. It's bouncing back.
Yes, it's because we do home buying education program. There's still a lot there now that's giving all these mortgages, and this is why I always tell consumers, know who your bank is, really know who your investor is, know what you're buying, ask questions. The banks will be happy to give that to you. There's a lot of nonprofits like NAAC that will really guide you with the right mortgage for you. Buying a home is not for everybody.
I want to ask about, you had mentioned, for example, that Asian Americans tend to be quiet, I think is the term that you used. A lot of folks of Asian descent living in America may have hailed from countries where the governments were oppressive, dictatorships, corrupt, and so oftentimes the perception of these folks may be, I don't want to get involved with the government at all. Even though I'm in America, I don't want to talk to the government. And so how are you able, what do you do to try to convince these folks if something does go amiss, awry, that you can talk to the government? And they're there to protect you. We can guide you, because so often you hear just government. I don't want to get involved.
You know, Brad, that's just why I appreciate you interviewing me and Charter doing this community service, because you're right. There's still a fear of the government, fear of the banks, and just because where they came from. But in reality, our government, it is the best government in the world, no matter what people say.
It is interesting you say. I mean, there's no doubt, look, nothing's perfect, but how lucky are we to be living in a country like America? So what have you done to talk to these folks, to work them through the process if there is an issue?
Yes. So NAAC is very proactive in educating people. I believe that if I'm designated as a community organizer, that I have to give them the resources that's available for them. So for example, we are inside Island Pacific Supermarket, the second largest Filipino grocery store, where they have an average of 1,000 people that goes inside the store. There's more people that goes there than the banks and any government agency. So in the booth that we have, we educate them. So this is, One West calls this the hope booth. So this is why there's still a lot of good people out there, good agencies out there. You just have to go to the right one.
Her name is Faith Bautista. She is the president and CEO of the National Asian American Coalition, doing work on behalf of Asian American communities and really all communities.
Minority groups.
All minority groups. My name is Brad Pomerance. Today we are at the National Faith Leaders Conference in Irvine, California, and you're watching Charter Local Edition.